and Senator D'Amato, for example. And they were worried that I was on the plane that crashed. And I said, what plane that crashed? And it was the plane that took off after me. But there was a fairly long delay between the two. And there was a fairly long delay when we took off that day because there were de-icing that had to be done twice, possibly 3 times on my plane. That was not at all a problem last night. Last night's problem was it looks like a crash. Now, without further details that haven't been released yet, and I can understand why they've got to get the box, and I assume a helicopter, particularly a military helicopter, has a box. Our police helicopters did, and so you'll be able to get two versions of it. When you look at the crash, it looks like the helicopter crashed into the airplane, and the airplane was attempting to avoid it, moving off. If you can see my hands, right? Helicopter, airplane. It looks like at the very end, that happened, and it hit in here rather than that way. Looks that way. And I can only reconstruct that from 2 things, from watching the blasts of light collide with each other in as big a zoom as possible, and also one report that the airplane was veering to its right at the very, very end, probably making a desperate attempt to avoid the helicopter. Looks like the planes went up immediately. From what you can see far away, it probably would have been immediate loss of life. Looks like they both exploded out of the air. And from what you can see recovered of the airplane, it doesn't look like any major segments of it recovered. Again, it doesn't seem that way. There's a lot that we don't know. The main thing that we don't know is just how it happened. I guess the big question is, what was the military helicopter doing there on a training flight? Not a really sensible place to have a training flight in the middle of one of the most crowded civilian airspaces in the United States. You have Dulles Airport, International Airport, and you've got Baltimore Airport just a little bit north, which is also quite an active airport. And then you've got a lot of small airports in the area as well. I'm not familiar with all of them, but I remember seeing them. You've got the Air Force Base not far away. So I just wouldn't think that it'd be a place you'd be doing a training mission, and therefore there needs to be some explanation. There needs to be a good explanation of that. Do we have a video of it, Stephen? Well, I should tell you, in case we look a little strange tonight, I should have mentioned it on the other show too, shouldn't I? We don't have Ted with us, right? The boys are looking at me like, Rob looks like he's lost. Even Rob even has his earmuffs on wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm listening to you.
Oh, you're listening? That's horrible, isn't it? You're listening to me?
Yeah, no, it's not horrible.
And Stephen,
people should start doing it more often.
Stephen is doing a great job, given the fact that Ted has put this together so only he understands it. So, but we should say that Ted's going home because of some sickness in his family. So let's say a little prayer for Ted. All right. I wanted to see if we had a video of the crash. And I'm sure everyone's seen it, but this way we can do our own little analysis of it.
Keep going.
And so isn't it amazing how quickly this new administration was on top of this? I mean, the president commented on it an hour after it happened. Uh, the new transportation secretary in office for one day was at the FTA immediate at the FAA, sorry, at the FAA immediately, and describing it as of last night. Used to take little Petey about 4 to 5 or 6 days first to find out about it, and then about another 4 or 5 days to get the proper amount of rest so that he could address himself to it. I remember when East Palestine happened. I went to East Palestine with Ted, and we covered it the night before. In the morning, we had a morning meeting with the mayor that was supposed to be 1 hour, and then little Petey was going to show up. I think late, a couple of days late. Biden showed up almost a year and a half late, which of course was about as ridiculous as everything else he did. To show up a year and a half late was just as ridiculous as anything else he did. But during the course of the conversation with Ted and me, the mayor had someone interrupt him, and they said, "The secretary, Secretary Buttigieg, is waiting for you." And the mayor said, "Tell him I'm talking to Mayor Giuliani. He'll have to wait." He said, "This is," looked at me, "This is a much more substantive conversation than that'll be. I've talked to him already." I was just surprised that the guy is like Donald Trump, right? I'm used to politicians that lie, and of course it's true. I mean, I handled 1,000 emergencies, and every time there was an emergency, Buttigieg was on like paternity leave or taking runs or off vacationing or trying to figure out how to move to Wisconsin, not Wisconsin. He comes from Wisconsin. To where does he want to run? Michigan, so he can run. I guess he figures in Wisconsin he can't win because he was such a. See, they remember he was such a terrible mayor of Green Bay. Imagine not being a good mayor of Green Bay, which is a little tiny town, and then running for president. That's the way they do it, the Dems. If they ever ran on merit, they couldn't win because they don't know how to govern. You've heard my lecture on governing, so you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it again. But yep. So I think I see something. Well, we were close. I saw it. I saw the plane. So there were a whole bunch of national scores that were put out about education. I find this maybe, no, I can't say the worst news. Maybe this is tied for the worst thing about us today. And that is the not just deterioration, but over the Biden and pandemic years, how the teachers union, a communist created union, has gone into high gear in destroying our education. We're heading to the bottom. We've been struggling for a long time. The Marxists have been infiltrating it viciously and bitterly for a long time at all levels, at the grammar school level, at the high school level, and most particularly at the higher education level. So national scores just came out. And in the national scores, this is fourth to eighth graders. Just 67% of eighth graders were able to meet or exceed skills, which leaves a third of eighth graders not being able to meet basic skills. Eighth grade is an important time, right? It's the conclusion of your grammar school education and the basis on which a good high school or college education is going to be based. Eighth grade math levels dropped from 22 to 24, from 62 to 61%. And they're down 9 points since 2019. So you have both long-term massive drop in overall proficiency, meaning reading and writing. And then you have smaller but very concerning incremental drops in everything else. You have almost no increases. Maybe one exception here or there. Fourth grade math improved by 2 points. That was about but it's down 80% since 2019. Those are frightening numbers brought about by the narcissistic, communistic teachers union. And I am not going to say there are an awful lot of good teachers, and we always should be nice to the good teachers, and we should quit if you're so good. What the hell do you want to be Nazi prison guards for? Quit. Out. Leave the union. You love protest. You protested to stay out of work. You stayed out of work more than anybody else. You kept the kids out of school for forever, and that's why they're never going to regain that. Private, parochial, charter schools are all doing way better than you because they came back way faster than you. And in places where Republicans had a chance, they came back really quickly, and they're doing much better, like Florida. In places where the politicians aren't bought by the communist teachers union. Yeah, of course I respect teachers. It's tough being a teacher. I don't respect people that remain members of a communist union. Why don't you read the history of the union? You guys read the history. Find out who founded it. Find out who's guiding it. Why don't you figure out some of the basic concepts of it that are Marxist, quintessential Marxist? You know that whole thing about how the school boards and the teachers and everybody else should really determine the education of, and the parents shouldn't bother you. Those ignorant parents shouldn't bother you. That's a Marxist precept. One of the 2 or 3 main ones. It's called the state controls the children. Karl Marx, Frederick Engels, Adolf Hitler, and Mr. Stalin were big believers in that, as is Mao and Biden's good friend and paymaster Xi Jinping, and the head of the teachers union. Or the governor of Minnesota, who's a member of the teachers union, the one who taught in China for 30 times. Teachers union, explain to me how Tampon Tim got to teach in China 30 times and didn't teach Chinese dogma. They let them do that? Yeah. They let you teach whatever you want in China. Ever been to China? I told the head of the Communist Party in Beijing my opinion of Taiwan, and he threw me out. I'm going to tell you, he threw me out. And if I didn't know Chinese, I wouldn't have known I was being thrown out. Although the conversation ended abruptly. We were having a very fine conversation. He was being extraordinarily charming. He knew all about my career. He knew things about my career I didn't even know. He was complimenting me for things that I shouldn't even be complimented for. And then all of a sudden, he said to me that he would like me to carry back to President Bush that he's pushing too hard on Taiwan, and that Taiwan is a part of China, and he should really understand that. And not at times, it sounds like he doesn't seem to understand that. And he understands that I'm friendly with President Bush, and he thinks it would be very valuable if I could explain that that things would be much better between the United States and China if we didn't seem to be as equivocal on the notion of one China, that it would be so much better. So I gave him my opinion. I told him I thought, let's keep President Bush out of it. I wasn't his emissary. I was there on a private trip. I didn't undertake to bring a message back, didn't say yes or no. But I did say, hey, would you like to hear my opinion? Which he seemed very interested in. And I told him, I can't imagine why the people of Taiwan want to be part of you. They spent a long time trying to figure out how to become a representative republic and, in essence, a democracy ruled by law. Now, they began as a dictatorship, too. I can't imagine, after your history with Hong Kong and how you broke all your promises to them, why the hell Taiwan would want to join you. Why don't you try making reforms and convincing them to join you? He had a big smile on his face. And I thought, oh, my goodness. I really am a great lawyer. I got that communist to agree with me. Can never do that with the head of the teachers union. And then all of a sudden, my translator, who was behind me, his was like next to us, leans over in his ear and he says, Mayor Giuliani, he didn't quite translate it the way you said it. I said, well, how did he translate it? And he said, well, he kind of sort of suggested that you agreed that it would be better for there to be one China, the world to be safe. So he said something like that, but it sure as hell wasn't what you said. I said, did you write down what I said? He said, yes. And he showed it to me to make sure it was right, but it was in Chinese. So I said, well, I'm just going to trust you. He said, are you sure you want me to do it? I said, would you please tell him what I said? Exactly, the best you can. Well, he sat there very nicely listening to it. Once again, I thought I had a shot. Except, as soon as it was over, was that it? He didn't ask me anything else. He stood up. He said, it was a very good conversation. I'm glad that we had a conversation, and I hope you enjoy your work and business in China. Goodbye. A great little conversation. I even thought I might get invited to dinner. Over, I'm out. My security's gone. My security's gone. I got to get around China. Mike Hess and I on our own. With my security, but not the Chinese security. My guys know Chinese as well as I do. It was a very unpleasant day and a half. And we finally did get out. We weren't sure we would. Now, every time I've gone to China, I go with a burner phone. I do not take any. And I can't live without my iPad. Don't take it to China. I go back to taking notes and putting it in my pocket. And my head of security, John Houvain, used to put little, I don't know if John put wires or little string, and I tell you, they're not that good because the string was always all messed up and they clearly were going through everything every night. So there are many, many things that Donald Trump is doing. And I'd almost like to believe, and he may have. I don't think you feel these things until later and know exactly how effective they have been. But he may have turned it around already. There's a point at which, we're not there yet, it take a little long. There's a point at which he will turn this around so well, it'll pick up momentum on its own. And it'll get bigger than him, like it did for me and like it did for him the first time. I'll explain that as we go along. But first, let's take a short break. Before we do,
here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Right now.
Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani. This is America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida. And today we finished up the Robert F. Kennedy hearings, and I would say it was contentious, but I don't know that we haven't gotten them over the top. Do we have some footage of it, Stephen?
Of Kennedy?
Of Kennedy,
Yes. Give me a second on that.
and then we'll go to Tulsi Gabbard. And then we'll get some on Kash Patel. There is Senator. How do you like that, Senator Kennedy? There's Robert Kennedy. There's Robert Kennedy Jr. Look how crowded that hearing is. My goodness. It reminds me of the hearings his father used to have with Jimmy Hoffa. You know, they almost had a Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s father and Jimmy Hoffa almost had a fist fight. And I'm the person that took the Teamsters out of the mafia with a RICO case, and Joe DeGeneres was the special master who ran the Teamsters for quite some time. You see Joe all the time on, particularly on Newsmax. He and my good friend and his beautiful wife Vicky Tenzi. So, I mean, it was like yesterday's testimony. There's no reason to really review it in great detail. The Democrats were gratuitously angry, insulting, made a rather complete fools out of themselves, and Kennedy handled himself as a perfect gentleman. I think the reason he left the Democrat Party is he's a gentleman, and they're all a bunch of slobs. I was very, very happy to see that Marsha Blackburn is very enthusiastic about him, because I consider Marsha sort of a really, really, really good senator. I don't consider everybody a really, really, really good senator, but I consider Marsha one who really does her homework and is, now is she looks young, so it looks like hasn't been there that long, but she's acquired a great deal of seniority. She's got tremendous balance. She studies like hell, and her heart is exactly where it should be. So her support for Kennedy, I also happen to know that she is one of the senators very much respected by other senators. So I do believe that she is going to help even make some of the quizzlings a little less quizzy. I made that word up. Then Tulsi Gabbard, who is it, Stephen, do you think that they're being harder on these two because they're Democrats? What do you think?
Well, actually, I think that with regard to RFK Jr., I think that a lot of those Democrats are in the pocket of big pharma, and he's just a big buck to the establishment that's very entrenched in D.C. So he's coming up against a lot of opposition with that regard, as well as the pro-vaccine lobby. With Tulsi, yeah, I think it is because she kind of switched teams on him, and it's kind of hard for them to kind of get a grip on where she stands. I mean, as it is for many, but
I like it because she had a one-run knockout, a one-punch knockout of Kathleen Kamala. Remember, she took.
Oh yeah. Well, that's easy.
She was the number one. I mean, Biden should love her. Tulsi knocked her out. Biden got knocked out by Kamala. Yeah. Remember the first debate? Kamala was the number one candidate. They were all supporting her. Obama secretly, that was his candidate. It wasn't so secretly Soros and his son's candidate. They gave her the most money at the beginning.
You mean 2020, right?
In 2020, yeah. And then Tulsi just knocked her on her ass, and she went bouncing. I mean, she hit the canvas on her ass, and she bounced up twice.
Well, do you want to hear a little bit of her?
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little. Tulsi's very smart.
Watching at home, you may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet. But before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty.
Who's that in the back?
And my love for our country.
On the left, he looks familiar. What is his name?
Was this one?
Yeah.
Something or someone other than God.
Is that The Rock?
My
The,
own
It looks like The Rock, yeah.
Constitution of the United States.
I don't think it's him.
I don't think so. Could you find out if The Rock was at her? Could you just put in, it was The Rock at Tulsi Gabbard's
Not recognizing
thingy wingy?
the of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed.
I think we're playing it twice.
Elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate
We're
for
back to you.
change.
Back to
I really it fails to just register with me what's so wrong with her. She had a very high level in the military. She was a very, very active and effective congresswoman. She was a candidate for president. She speaks and talks on foreign policy and intelligence forever and ever. And there's no question she's a loyal American. Uh, so maybe I end up being more attached to her because she's being accused of being a Russian pawn of Putin, which I was accused of. And man, you couldn't have accused me of anything so stupid. You have never met a bigger anti-communist than this one. I think the only other thing my father taught me before he taught me to root for the Yankees was to hate the communists. And my mother agreed with him, and one was a Democrat and one was a Republican. They agreed on how horrible communism were. They both were at times, even the Democrat, favorable to McCarthy, the way the Kennedys were, and then broke with him when he went too far, and broke with him rather effectively. They taught me a great deal of my political principles and also my ability to make up my mind on my own, no matter what political party I'm a member of. I admired her as a Democrat candidate. I would say on the air, and I would say to my friends, too bad she's not a Republican. And when I read Kennedy's book on Fauci, when I read his chapters on communism, which are not highlighted much, nor do the dumb morons who now review things for the Times and elsewhere, and who are highly uneducated because they just learn about gender and Marxism in college. I was extremely interested in his discussion of communism, which I urge you read. And you might get a different impression and get an idea of what a complex thinker he is. But in any event, the Democrats seem so pissed off that these guys, and oh, look, don't even say anything. It's possible he makes Senator McCarthy look good. I really think that Senator McCarthy was more honest than him, but had an alcohol problem. This guy doesn't have an alcohol problem. He's just a straight out and out immoral, disgusting, completely fraudulent liar. I have two people who have direct evidence of Donald Trump colluding with the Russians. Okay, Shifty, where the hell are they? Scuba.
Well, you want to play chef?
Oh, do we have to? Yeah, shall we play him so I can get angry?
And here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associated with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if we can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did.
Excellent.
Tell them you're proud
Excellent.
that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie. You know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know, my entire life. And I did not make a single dime out of it.
Well, let me.
How about you ask them
ask you
if I
this.
have their backs, and let's see about that.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr.
Yes
Schiff,
or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
If you were the FBI director and you promoted a song with someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff,
I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16
And
years
yet
of
you
government
did all these
service.
things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You can say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters. It's what you did that matters. But let me ask you about something else that you did, Mr. Patel. Did you claim that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago? Did you claim that?
In what proceeding?
To the public, ever, did you tell anyone that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago?
From publicly available information, President Trump issued a declassification order in a variety of
I'm
materials.
just asking you, did you tell the public, did you tell anyone, did you make the claim that Donald Trump had declassified those hundreds of classified documents that were in Mar-a-Lago? Did you make that claim
From my
publicly?
best of my recollection, I said President Trump issued a declassification order to a large number of documents.
Yeah, and were you present when he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents?
Senator, I'm not saying he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents. I said President Trump declassified a large number of documents, and I would hope this committee and the rest of Congress would want to get those documents to the American people.
Mr. Patel, before a president or anyone declassified documents, wouldn't you want to know whether maybe?
No, let's get him off. I mean, there's no. First of all, the sure indication he doesn't really give a damn about the answer is he doesn't wait for it. Second, he makes up statements that are totally false and then wants the person to answer them yes or no. This is precisely what he's been doing it forever. And why the hell he isn't prosecuted or thrown out of the Senate or House, I don't know. When he produced the false claim that Donald Trump offered a quid pro quo to the new president of Ukraine, he said he had a witness to that effect. A whistleblower who said there was a quid pro quo that Donald Trump told the president of the Ukraine, if you don't investigate Biden and his son for the bribes that they received from Zlochevsky, which they did, by the way, of which there is ample, enormous amount of evidence on the hard drive. Which at the time he didn't know about and which at the time was being concealed by the FBI. He's going to have to run. Concealed at that point already for 6 months by the FBI, with documents destroyed and changed by the FBI he's going to have to fix. Well, it turns out when the document was released, Schiff was completely lying. Trump never discussed money. The issue of money hadn't even come up yet no one knew about it yet. It wasn't discussed. There was no language of extortion. It was, could you please look into? The fact is if the FBI and Bill Barr weren't concealing the hard drive, which I hadn't gotten yet, Trump would have been completely exonerated, and he would have been made to be even clearer, a complete, absolute, pathologic liar that he is. And then a few days later, the document comes out. He comes out of the hearing, and he acts as if the false information he gave originally was the testimony. And then when you look at the testimony, it was exactly the opposite. This is a liar of such dimension that I don't understand how Cash maintained his temper at all. And say, I really don't feel it's appropriate, if I am going to be director of the FBI, to answer your questions, because I actually think you should be in jail. And I don't think that criminals should be asking questions of nominees for the FBI. He might also say, I really should keep my mouth shut because there's a conflict of interest here. I have no doubt that you'll be subject number one, because there are a few people in Washington who lie a lot, but I understand you're right at the top of the target list. If that miserable, creepy, lying son of a bitch doesn't go to jail, there's not justice in America. Guy's a really bad man. tried to take out a sitting president of the United States with purchased false testimony. You can do worse than that. You can commit murder. That's about it. Well, and Mr. White House. Oh, come on. What happens to Democrats? There's about as big a phony as you're ever going to see anywhere. He is a joke. He's an absolute joke. Let's not even play what he's saying, because I don't even think his colleagues think he's anything but a joke. You ever hear anybody refer to him in discussions about anything? Yes, he's a joke. We'll be right back, and we'll tell some jokes. What do you think?
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Going to go to the. We are going to, as I was telling Stephen, go back to the crash now for a few minutes and take a look at how it happened, and have a little discussion about it, and see what Stephen and Rob see when they look at this. What you're looking at now is an independent airplane that has taken off, heading, as you can see, straight up. Hard to say what kind of an airplane. Now you see it go by, but now you see below, you can see the small light and the big light, and the small light hits the big light, and there goes the explosion. And it looks like things go down, and you can see definitely, without any doubt, a big flame of smoke go into the water. There you see it from far away. That's from far away. Now we're going to see it much closer up. And there you go. Now you see several different flames of smoke. You see one big one go right into the Potomac. And as far as I know, that's the only video out depicting it. I imagine there will be more. This was taken. It would seem to me this was taken in Maryland, because you're looking across the Potomac. That's the airport. The airport is on that side of the Potomac. Meaning
this could be from Virginia still. Yeah, this.
Oh, or could it be from the Kennedy Center, looking that way?
It almost feels like Roslyn a little bit.
Well, if you look in the corner, there is a marking for Kennedy Center.
Okay.
But right there, that's the Potomac. when it goes in the water.
Yeah, I wish we had a little bit better resolution here.
You see Kennedy's Center camera?
Yeah.
So if the Kennedy Center,
yeah, now
and
I
there's
know where
and
we
there
are.
and there's the Lincoln Memorial.
Yep. So we are in DC proper at this point, right on the Potomac here.
Excuse me, that may have been the Jefferson Memorial.
No, that's Lincoln. I know where we are. Remember where we did our show from Roslyn? It's basically right across the river from there. Is where we did the show. So this is from the Kennedy Center on the Potomac.
Let's go back to the beginning again and see if we can stop it when they have the.
Let me know when to stop it.
Right there. So that's the point of impact.
Now, does it look to you like the helicopter ran right into the plane?
What I can't see is what they described, which is that the plane was making a turn to the right in order to evade the helicopter. But I'm not sure you would be able to see that with that kind of image. You don't really see a plane and a helicopter. What you see are two flashes of light, a big flash of light and a small flash of light. And we're assuming that the small flash of light is the helicopter, must be, and the big flash of light is the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if whoever described it has got it right, at the very end, but we don't see that, the airplane would be veering to the right to avoid the helicopter. So now let's let it explode.
The horror, oh my goodness. And multiple U.S. figure skaters were on board, is my understanding.
You know, from the way it fell, Stephen, it appeared, since it looks like the largest part of the plane fell into the Potomac would be to the left. And that would almost suggest that it wasn't turning to the right, it was turning to the left. But,
Yeah.
you know, there are going to be a lot of mistakes. There are going to be a lot of mistakes. You see how part goes off?
Oh, I see.
You see how part goes off to the left
Yeah.
and part goes off to the right?
Yeah.
Not all of it ended up in the water. So there had to be remains. There had to be debris
I was wondering about that.
on
Was
the
there something
ground.
on the land?
It doesn't look like it all made it into the water. Look, I look at it one more time. Just watch how it separates.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, those could be a fair distance apart too. You know, it looks. We're looking at it. We're looking at it from a fairly long distance, and not a very clear picture. They could have fallen a good distance apart. But we will be learning more about it, I'm sure, over the next couple of days, and it'll clear up some of the mystery about it, and also, and there may be other mysteries that we don't know about. The one that concerns me the most is why a training flight at that time of night in such a crowded airspace.
Well, so some training flights, pilots are required to get a certain number of nighttime hours, but get the nighttime hours maybe somewhere where people aren't, constantly using the airspace.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to practice about, flying in crowded conditions, I wouldn't do it where there were passages.
Yeah, maybe have other people training. Everyone can train at the same time, like that
But
type of
look,
thing.
let's see if it could be off course. Who knows?
Yeah, and we're going to get an NTSB report shortly here.
Right.
It should be coming out soon, and then it'll evolve with what we know. And man, what a first day for Secretary Duffy.
Right on the ball, though.
Yeah.
Do we have any footage from Sean? I know Sean since 2010. I met Sean when he was running for Congress, and I campaigned with him and his beautiful wife, who's on Fox every Saturday morning and Sunday morning, and his 412 children. President was there right away. Unusual.
The only thing we know certain about that plane crash is that it was one hell of a tragedy.
Yeah, it was one hell of a tragedy.
One hell of a tragedy that was. Well, little girl, they were all young girls, and oh my God, beautiful in the prime of their life.
So I think that one would say that we're moving on Trump time. There's Sean Duffy. If we're watching that now, I don't know if you have that
Not quite.
up, but that's Sean Duffy. He's the new Secretary of Transportation.
The best and the brightest in positions of safety that impact the lives of our loved ones, our family members. And I think you make a really important point on that, Mr. President. That is the motto of your presidency: the best and the brightest, the most intelligent coming into these spaces. I want to take a moment and extend my condolences to the families of the loved ones. We commit to them that we are going to get to the bottom of this investigation, not in 3 years, not in 4 years, but as quickly as possible, with the NTSB, who is here today, as well as the FAA. What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. And when Americans take off in airplanes, they should expect to land at their destination. That didn't happen yesterday. That's unacceptable. And so we will not accept excuses. We will not accept passing the buck. We are going to take responsibility at the Department of Transportation and the FAA to make sure we have the reforms that have been dictated by President Trump in place to make sure that these mistakes do not happen again and again.
Well, that's exactly the right attitude of a leader. You couldn't have said it better myself, nor can anyone else. And I'm sure the president is sitting there, knowing him for as long as I do, saying, "Oh boy, I made the right choice." Couldn't say it better myself, the president says, I'm sure. And everything I know Sean quite well, and that what you heard is what you're going to get. You're going to get that. That's exactly what you're going to get. So let's see. Banned DEI. Closed the border. Yesterday, I don't know what the number was for today. Yesterday, they were down to 600. Biden never got below 2,000 at the southern border. And of course, he went way up to 10 a day. Remember, and never forget, more people came in illegally under Biden than came in legally to Ellis Island.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever need a talking point for why he is the worst president in the history of the United States, and the one who subjected us to an invasion, more people came in under Joe Biden than came in Ellis Island legally. In 3.5 years, 15 million plus came in illegally under Joe Biden. In 60 plus years, 12 million people came in legally through Ellis Island. People who we knew, whose names we knew, whose criminal records we got to check, whose medical records we got to check. Among the 15 million, if we checked 1 or 2 million of them, it was a lot. Probably about a third of them we never even saw. The most dangerous of them, we only asked 4 questions of. That was the maximum we were allowed to ask the people that Biden was the friendliest with, the Chinese. Oh, no, it had nothing to do with the 21 million they paid him. No. Joe wouldn't take bribes, would he? Just crazy Giuliani and all those Trump people that say that. Just the mere fact that his son has written out in an email to his daughter that over 30 years he gave 50% of his salary to his father, and every one of the lying shitheads in Washington has covered it up. Doesn't mean he really did. He was just saying that for fun. Yeah. He was like, He's like joking around with his daughter. I got to pay half the expenses of the family for 30 years. Ha 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 ha. Make believe, make believe. Or when he called up my chief of China, I got my father with me, the former vice president. You better send that money to us, or he's going to be really pissed off. Ha 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 ha. Just a joke. Just a joke. Such a good joke. The 5 million showed up 3 days later. And the old man got a big check from it. Oh, but he never got any money. Oh, a check for 400,000. Another one back in 16 for 800,000. Half the salary going to well. Did you know that Hunter paid his father rent for quite some time of $50,000 a month? Well, you said that's fine. Except Hunter owned the house. This is what Democrats do all the time. Oh, I don't understand that. Wait. Hunter owned the house. And he paid rent. Yeah, jackass, it's called being a bagman. You know what a bagman is? A bagman is a miserable, low-life piece of crap that collects bribes for politicians who sell out their oath of office, which Joe Biden did from the time he was a measly little rat senator from Delaware, and announced that if he hadn't raised so much money during his campaign, he probably would have been corrupt, largely because he's also the most crooked man to be in the White House. Possibly the most demented. Wilson could have been more demented. Had he not been demented, which kind of blurs it, he'd have been the stupidest man in the White House. If Jefferson were the smartest, he'd be the stupidest. He's already started a massive cleanup of the Justice Department. So bad they're being forced to on TikTok to whine. Do you know how satisfying it is to me, given the fact that they were persecuting me for 5 years, took away my law license in 2 places, made me virtually penniless. You know how satisfying it is to me to see these little shits whining on TikTok? How about the ones that have to go back to work that are whining?
I think it's going to get worse. They just started whining.
We have to go back to work. Can you imagine? We can get our work done on the telephone. Now, here's the thing that's really strange. It doesn't really matter if they go back to work or not. They don't work at home. They don't work in the office.
That's exactly right.
What they do is leak. Half of them work. Half of them don't work. So if you're a good manager, get rid of half. If you make a few mistakes, hire a few people back and get rid of a few people. But I am absolutely 100% convinced that, except for law enforcement and the military, that whole government could operate at half of what it is.
Or even less.
That's what they should do.
I know the New York City government could.
Right, they're already whining about having to go back to work. When they get there, what makes you think they're going to do a good job?
In fact, aside from the money we're wasting paying them, aside from the money that we're wasting paying them, it might be better if they stay home. I always thought, remember people would always complain about Biden being on vacation? I always thought it was better when he was on vacation. I think things got screwed up less. Whoever the hell, well, actually though, it just was one bad group. Whoever was making the decisions, whether it was Biden, combined being stupid and anti-American, all in one very strong package.
Yeah. Treason.
So let's see. Do you think that RFK and Tulsi and Kash Patel, do you think they're going to be confirmed?
All 3 will be confirmed.
And when?
I think.
And when? Give me a time. Give me how much time?
Well, it depends.
That I can't say.
Once they get advanced out of committee, how fast are they going to vote on them?
Next day usually.
Yeah, so it depends on it.
You know, after all, I mean, it's a Republican Senate, so that they can expedite.
Yeah, and so RFK was
Look,
out.
remember that's what happened with Pete. Pete got voted out at night, and he was confirmed the next day.
True. Now, the finance committee where RFK was, I'm less familiar with the makeup of that, but there could be some distinct personalities on there that could make it difficult. But I do think that they should be able to get confirmed shortly. These are definitely the group that is going to be the hardest.
I think once he gets past these three, unless we're missing something, or there's a surprise person they have something in for, or something unexpected happens, comes up on somebody we don't know.
Well, and there are some very powerful lobbies that oppose, and it comes back to draining the swamp. The swamp does not want to be drained, which is the project that President Trump has decided to embark on. So we're draining the swamp, and the swamp is fighting back. We got pharma, you got defense, you got a lot of big interests that do not want to see them confirmed. But the people overwhelmingly voted for these policies.
Well, they've been fighting back since 2016. Now they're coming apart at the seams, it seems.
Well, he's actually selected this time cabinet members that go right at their heart.
Yes.
I mean, these are insults to them, these cabinet members.
Okay.
To the crooked pharmaceutical industry, you couldn't have picked anybody else, from our point of view, better, or from their point of view, worse than Robert F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
For the military-industrial complex, a combination of Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard, oh my God.
Disaster for them.
And the surveillance industrial complex.
Oh, come on. Not only that, all the crooks, he knows who they are.
Yep.
He lived through it. I mean, when he's looking at Swifty Swift, I don't know. You think Swift would have gone a little easy since who knows? He may be looking at him in the grand jury pretty soon.
That's the thing. Maybe this is his last stand. But
Maybe they'll appoint me to prosecute him.
Oh, that would be delightful. Well, where would you start? Where would you even start with that? You know, Schiff. He's got so much baggage.
I tell you what, I would start any way you wanted. I could prosecute him from the beginning to the end, from the middle to the end to the beginning, from the beginning to the middle to the end. We could do it as a retrospective. We could do it as a prospective.
And just,
if you let me do it, I would promise to I would use the best 2/3 of the evidence. I'd even grant them 1/3 of the evidence, give it up.
Would you start with
Biden? I give you half the evidence, and you could take half the. I put all the evidence out. Wouldn't tell you what it was. I'd say take half of it away. I can still convict him.
How easy would it be to just impeach the credibility of Schiff on the stand? It would just be the easiest.
It would be
thing.
the dream. It would be better than the guy that I got to break down and confess on the stand, who smashed his glasses. He got so nervous.
Yeah,
it's in the New York Times. If you ever want to read about it.
You could basically
while he was going. When I asked him to read something, he put up his glasses and he put his finger through it. He got so nervous. That ended up in his guilty plea. No, I'm sorry, I'm bragging, but I did it the best. That was the thing I did best was cross-examine.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
I would love, and I always found politicians a breeze. You know why? Because they lie. And they lie without accountability. You can see Biden, right? Biden would say the same lie 3 days in a row, even though it was in the papers that he was lying the day before.
Yeah.
Just repeat it.
That's the don't believe your lying eyes tactic.
Yeah, because the press has made them unaccountable and they're spoiled. Now, here's the difference. If they're in front of a fair judge and a fair jury, they're dead meat. Now, they also have the advantage if they can stick it in the District of Columbia. I mean, there must be one or two fair judges in the District of Columbia, but they're hiding, whoever they are. The District of Columbia is a disgrace in the annals and history of American law enforcement or American justice. The judges should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, the swamp culture makes its way.
What they did to the J6 people, and all this stuff about they beat up cops and whatever. Yeah, some of them did. Most of them didn't. And people beat up cops and go to jail. People don't beat up cops and get held without bail, get put in gulags. are treated like they're traitors
For how many years?
for 20 years, 10 years.
Right.
Also don't get the opportunity to have a fair trial, are tried by judges who are bloodthirsty and maniacal and dictatorial, not allowed to call their families. People in New York who hit cops don't even go to jail.
Isn't it funny how the whole apparatchik seems to have aligned collectively at one time?
Oh yeah, well they're protecting themselves. Look up. If it all gets investigated, they all go down.
Yes.
And they are hoping that the pressure of so many things to do will mean that they don't follow through, or the pressure of trying to create a culture of don't do the same thing they did. Let bygones be bygones. Let's get it over with. Let's put it behind us. That's great because they tortured us and now we're permanently scarred, permanently hurt, and in some cases permanently committed suicide. And they get away with it.
Yeah.
With all their wealth and riches. And they'll do it again. However, if they pay a big price for it, you're damn right they won't do it again. But not for a while. It'll take 50 years for them to do it again.
Right.
Deterrence on the criminal law does not stop crime forever, but it slows it down for a long period of time. So I found that with Wall Street. If you did a big thing on Wall Street and put a bunch of them in jail, you got about 10 or 15 good years and then went back to stealing again.
Sure. That makes sense. That's human nature.
Same thing with politicians.
Yeah.
If they think you're on top of them and you're watching them, a lot of them will be relatively honest. If they're not watching, you can trust a couple. That's about it. I see a dog over there who's so handsome, I must say. That Raleigh is so handsome. It's hard. So what did you make this week? This is not the end of the week, but we're getting there, about that whole deep seek thing with their ability to theoretically do things faster and do things cheaper, and therefore they'll be able to undermine all of our tech.
I think you might have kind of like partially debunked that theory, right? When you said that it was like a red herring. They throw it out there, and if people believe it, then they believe it.
Well, I think that's correct. I think it's correct that they are grossly exaggerating it, because I don't think they'd reveal it if it was true. Because China is as conniving as can be, and but still, it just makes no sense in the intelligence and military world to let your adversary know you have such a great advantage over them when your adversary has an industrial capacity that's even greater than yours, a creative capacity that is actually the greatest in the history of the world, and yours is probably the weakest. Let sleeping dogs lie. Or like Admiral Yamamoto is reported to have said, did we awake the sleeping giant?
Yeah.
I don't know if he said that at the Battle of Pearl Harbor or Midway. I think both movies contain a line like that. And historically, it's not certain. But if he didn't say it, he should have. When they failed to take Pearl Harbor out completely, and left us really with what, maybe an aircraft carrier or two. Well, they destroyed most of our fleet. Yamamoto thought it was a failure. He said, I think we're going to regret having awakened a sleeping giant.
Right.
Well, you don't want to. Maybe if you did that at the beginning of the Biden administration, you couldn't awake. First of all, they weren't a giant, and you can't awaken them because they're either too stupid, too unpatriotic, too communist, or too Marxist. So you can't wake them up. But you're going to wake up Trump and everybody around him.
Right.
And many you say that, they're going to say, maybe we don't believe it, but much better that we just assume it's true.
Yeah, and Biden appeared to have one agenda only: self-empowerment. Right?
Yeah.
I even understood that.
If he could have gone after China and made money on it, he might have done it. But since he was making money by not going after China, it was much better to not go after
Well,
China.
I would be surprised to see a couple Bidens on the board of DeepSeek here coming in the next few months.
Oh, they helped them. You take a good look at the hard drive and even some of the committee hearings. They did a great job helping China's defense. the Biden group.
And got paid well for it.
100%. I mean, they're complete traitors.
Everybody out there, you should buy Rudy's book, The Biden Crime Family.
Got it right there somewhere.
It's a great book.
That'll give you an idea.
Yeah, it'll give you an idea of. It'll actually. I'll tell you one of the things that it'll show you why he picked 2014 as the date to start the pardons. He picked 2014 because that's when he and the kid got the first bribe from Burisma in March of 2014.
That must have been just a coincidence, right?
Yeah, just a coincidence. You got to give a guy a pardon for 11 years of everything he did in 11. Suppose he murdered some girl we don't know about.
Not 10, 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. You got you got our great patriot there.
Oh, there's the book.
Fine, fine. It exonerated you. If you want to find out why we went back 11 years, it's in the book, right? Fine, but
Yeah, see, he's making the same point, I just did, right?
Good cue up.
So I think it's terrific that Trump is going to use Guantanamo. I don't know who's come up with the idea of using Guantanamo. They put about 1,000 of these illegals there. I think it's too good for them. Right? I think
It's a nice place. They play soccer, and it's a Caribbean paradise. From essentially, I mean, yeah, no one likes to have their liberty restricted, but if you're going to have your liberty restricted, Guantanamo Bay, from my understanding, is the place to be.
I built a detention center for the Haitian illegals when they were coming in. Oh God, 1,000 a month or whatever the heck it was, and a lot of them were coming up dead on the shores of Fort Lauderdale, Miami, North Miami. And so we had to build a detention facility because Carter, like a dumbhead, was letting them come in and just letting them go anywhere they wanted. And combined with the Marielitos, Carter turned Miami into a crime capital. So we had to change it, and I was put in charge of it. So what we did was we did our own sort of Remain in Mexico program. We got the Coast Guard to sit outside of Port-au-Prince. And when the boats were about to make their journey, we stopped them, took them on the boat, had the hearing on the boat. If they were entitled to asylum, we took them across. If they weren't, we returned them to Port-au-Prince.
And what percentage do you think were actually entitled to asylum?
What?
What percentage were actually entitled to asylum?
Well, actually, even in the United States, when they finally get to a hearing, about 5%.
Yeah, see, so it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, we allow 18 million people to come in when 5% of them are entitled to asylum.
With very generous rules.
Maybe. And then, you see, and Biden did it in a way that nobody else has, including Obama. Biden let him in and didn't check him at all. So if after a few weeks of finding out they're not checking you at all the criminals come. Because if you're a criminal, you may say to yourself, I'm not going to take the risk. I might get caught. I might get put in prison. Here I am out of prison, somehow in my own place. And if I go across, they may catch me. And I'll be in prison there. I'll be in prison here. The minute you find out they're not checking anybody and all your buddies who were in prison are getting across, and Biden is saying the border's open.
Uh-huh.
And that's why when Trump said that these people are criminals, obviously he doesn't mean every single one. And obviously some of them are definitely pathetic people.
Well, they are criminals. I mean, if you break the law.
They are, but I'm talking about really criminals beyond that.
Okay.
These people are disproportionately dangerous people because by doing away with the rules, you invite the really dangerous people in. Yeah. Second thing you do, you invite the organized criminals to take advantage of you. Now you can set up the biggest human trafficking operation in history, the biggest in the world, because nobody's looking at you. Right. You can set up the biggest 300 to 500,000 children missing.
That's crazy.
And that bishop woman is angry at Trump and doesn't seem to care about the 500,000 kids that are getting.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's